The House is voting on the third of 3 votes this evening. This final bit of legislation is dealing with a resolution that urges the Federal Trade Commission to investigate the video game Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
Man, fuck you. Bitch, get out of here. Man, just chill out, all right? Ooh. Yeah, sweat me.
My wife loves this stuff, man.
San Andreas was really controversial when it came out. I mean, it was the talk of town for a long time.
The Federal Trade Commission should investigate the publication of the video game Grand Theft Auto San Andreas to determine if the publisher intentionally deceived the Entertainment Software Ratings Board to avoid an adults-only rating.
In these recent days, video game modification is more commonly understood, but back then, it was so unheard of that even the concept of researching a video game and what video games are and how video games work was very uncommon, especially for this generation that you're looking at right here. In 2005, Congress actually had a vote to determine as to whether or not Grand Theft Auto San Andreas had sexually explicit content hidden away from the ESRB rating. The accusation sprung from a modification that was done by video game players, and it was aptly called hot coffee. This resulted in a new standard in the video game industry, where the FCC will fine video game developers $1 million if they do not disclose sexually explicit content to the ESRB rating system. And yes, the US government actually had a vote on this. The game contains sexually explicit content that is accessible by consumers, but that appears to have been hidden from the ratings board. Jesus Christ, the government's gotta find better shit to do than this. You remember that shit? That shit went insane. This is just a video game, y'all. It's just for fun. But yeah, I remember this coming out like when I was in like 7th grade, I think. And I guess I'm just not like ridiculously curious about this spicy, you know, PS2 era sex scene. But one thing I can say for certain is that it definitely rustled some jimmies with some of the more conservative crowd. Definitely of the Bible Belt variety.
Fuck Bud Light.
Moral majority, as they would be referred to in the 80s. But right now, it is 2024, which is like 20 years after this game came out. This game takes place in the year 1992. This has nothing to do with the 80s. So why am I playing it? Well... Oh yeah, baby. Let's do this. Listen to me, y'all. Sometimes I just need a little bit of catharsis just to blow off some steam. And today we're going to be playing some Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. This is the quote-unquote definitive version, which is, you know, kind of controversial to say, but that's not exactly my opinion. That's just what it's called. It's on the PlayStation 4. I have played the PlayStation 2 version. I used to own it when I lived in Van Nuys, California, but I don't have it anymore. I had to sell it for food. Y'all know how it is under the capitalist system. It's a fucking hellscape. And who can we count on the most to uphold this capitalist hellscape unconditionally without question whatsoever? That's right, the motherfucking police. And FYI, I am absolutely going to be using cheat codes in this video, so get mad about it, I guess. Anyway, I want to make my intentions very clear with this video because I know a lot of the time we see people go on rampages whenever they play Grand Theft Auto. It's very easy, especially if you're a pro gamer unlike me, to just go on rampages, and those are a lot of fun. But I don't want to just go on a rampage towards anybody. I want to do it towards the police. I think I need to work on my aim. As I was saying, sometimes certain cheat codes will require a button that involves shooting or attacking, and I don't really want to attack certain people, especially within my own cul-de-sac. I just think it would be kind of fucked up to go on a rampage in the middle of Grove Street. And because of the premise of this video, my only enemy is the police in this video game that I am playing. I'm not really looking to kill bystanders in this playthrough, so here's what I think I'm going to do. I'm going to rally up a point system. For every police officer, I will put at least 1 point. For every pedestrian, I will also put at least 1 point. I think I'm going to name every car as 2 people, every helicopter as 4 people, and every bigger vehicle as like 6 people. And that's because that's mainly who's in these vehicles. I think when you play Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, you're kind of just bound to have an accident or two, you know, to do something that you didn't quite intend for you to do when it comes to crazy ass rampages. So I'm not gonna really rule out that bystanders might die from this, but I also don't want that to happen. Quite the opposite, in fact. In the words of the great and late Christopher Dorner, the enemy combatants in LA are not the citizens and suspects, it's the police officers.
We got a 1081 in Los Santos.
After firing the first shot, the AI just kind of went nuts with the entire city. And I didn't like how with the AK-47 you can't really zoom in to your target. It kind of makes it harder to identify which one is a police officer from this vantage point. So I swapped to the rocket launcher because I can zoom, and I really don't want to kill as many civilians as possible. I don't want to do that. There's a police officer that's kind of stuck on the stairs down there, but he comes around and starts firing at me. And unfortunately, that's where I got my first civilian casualty. But at least now I can see everyone and get a good look at all of the NPCs to make sure that none of these are police officers. And I really want to make sure that I am getting police officers and not just regular bystanders. Police officers will drive cars, and cars are almost in a way similar to like a grenade. And it makes it a challenge to make sure that we're not hurting anyone around the vehicle. At one point I accidentally fell, which means it would have been a lot easier for them to catch me. So under extreme pressure I did the cheat code for the jetpack again and made it back on top. At this point I was hearing helicopters, and I really wanted to survey the area to make sure that if a helicopter was anywhere near me, that I would be able to catch it before it was too late. And it got pretty close, but hey, boom bitch.
Keep on with this shit, you'll be starved.
It began to turn into a game of shooting helicopters. It felt like shooting Augusto Pinochet himself. However, the problem is the aim feature is really hard because you can't go directly above you, and a lot of these helicopters know to go directly above you. It just means that while they're shooting at me, I have to walk around and readjust. Meanwhile, they got this SWAT motherfucker here, and I just incinerate them. That was kind of fun. But I got a little too careless, and I shot this police helicopter, but it ended up taking my life as well. I definitely caused a significant amount of destruction for these pigs. For round 1, I got 9 civilians and 15 police officers, which I think is pretty good, but that casualty rate for the civilians is a bit high for my liking, so I'm gonna try harder in the next one. Fun fact with Skylar. According to a study conducted in the year of 2020 by the University of Utah of Law, police only solve 2% of crime.
I got a real do-gooder fucking with me, and I want you to take this evil green poison and drop it on.
Like I said earlier, I tend to go in front of houses and alleyways in order to do a cheat code just to be safe. I really don't want to kill anybody on Grove Street. That would fucking suck. Look at that shit. Look at the view. Holy shit. And all of the lights that are on. Oh my goodness. That's so pretty. My goodness. Wow, man. I show up to Pershing Square, and the first thing I try to do is to get on top of this wall, which took a couple of tries, but eventually I got it, and that's when I noticed that there was a police officer right in front of me. I was still having trouble aiming, so I used a different weapon. This one. Yeah, that did the trick. Now there is also another trick that you can use if you're trying to get away from cops really quickly, if you don't want to worry about getting ganged up on by them, is steal one of their motorcycles. This is one of my favorite things to do in GTA San Andreas because it kind of reminds me of some of the shit I used to do when I was in Los Angeles. One time I was driving on the 5 freeway. It was supposed to merge on the 14 freeway, and on the way I ran into a guy with a Trump sticker, and we were in the trucker lane, and the trucker lane was going to diverge between those two freeways, more of the 5 and the 14. So what I did was I gave him a big middle finger. And you see, it didn't really matter if I went on the 5 or 14 interstate freeway. I could take either one. So I did what is commonly referred to as playing chicken. Much rather, I like to call it playing cowboy. So what I did was after I gave him a big middle finger, I stayed on the lane that would have taken me to the 14 freeway, which was going right. But just very last minute, as I very much saw his eye looking straight into mine and trying to catch up to me like he was about to round me up with a lasso, I turned into the left lane and went on the 5 and gave him one last middle finger just to let him know that he was a fascist piece of trash. Oh yeah. I felt so high and mighty that I fucking... Whoa! Well, I look stupid now, don't I? Wait, who the fuck was shooting him? Does that count? Yeah, that was kind of embarrassing. While I didn't get any casualties on the civilian side, which I'm quite pleased with, I got only 2 police officers, which is not really something to brag about, in my opinion. Fun fact with Skylar. Families of police officers tend to experience a higher chance of family domestic abuse, more than the NFL and the general population, according to The Atlantic.
It's gonna ruin that asshole's career.
Ah, bullshit.
Dudes, you want mushrooms, leaves? How about some DMT?
No, not for me, man. I got a jet.
I'm gonna get the fucking helicopter this time, watch. God damn it. So this time I have an interesting plan. I'm gonna try my best to sustain myself for as long as possible. Try to keep myself not only alive, but also consistently killing cops so I don't, have a dull moment while I'm doing my rampage. Basically, this here is City Hall, and what makes City Hall so interesting is that in real life Los Angeles, which I've been there before, in 2020 I took a look up that tower, and I thought what I saw was an assassin or a sniper. But in hindsight, I really think that's just a bell. Just wanted to share that. We're going to be causing a lot of destruction. Oh yeah. Oh, I can't see you, you clever little shit. You can't escape my wrath. This is when I began to realize that the use of my rocket launcher was kind of gonna be a problem. Because every time I shot my weapon, what would be left behind would be like fire, and it would get people and other vehicles on fire. I definitely plan to make more videos like this in the future, but I'd like to maybe not use the rocket launcher going forward, and maybe use something that's not gonna leave fire behind. I'll have to learn more about that as we go on. Eventually the helicopters showed up, and I got a pretty good kill streak with the helicopters because I just kept hitting them consistently almost. Not landing every single shot I fire, but it is fun to kind of watch these helicopters almost crash themselves in a way. But no, I was the one who shook it down. And the LASD gang, Los Santos Police Department will remember. A lot of damage took place toward the intersection. More helicopters keep showing up, and I have a feeling that perhaps maybe the Los Santos Police Department doesn't understand that every time I shoot one of these things down, they end up fucking killing more people themselves. Like seriously, they're kinda complicit. Even though I've made mistakes in my gameplay, I've definitely had my targets on one thing, and you already know what that is. But for some reason, they keep killing civilian bystanders and even themselves, as we saw earlier. Eventually, I realized that this vantage point is not much of a challenge, and that the helicopters seem to come from around the building. And it's very evident with its senseless destruction. So I mosey my ass to the side of the skyscraper, and what do you know? There's a whole gang of pigs just hanging out in the intersection waiting for me to gun them down. However, the previous problem then arises its ugly ass once again, and that is, it burns everyone around it. It leaves fire behind. So various vehicles and people are getting lit on fire, and I haven't even shot anything in like 10 or 15 seconds. There really is no way to avoid it unless you don't use explosive weapons like the rocket launcher. Also, if you have any tips on how to play Grand Theft Auto better, how to cause more destruction, how to do it quicker, how to play it more effectively, I'm always looking for tips in the comment section. Just be respectful about it and we Gucci mangoes. Nothing super interesting happens until I get knocked off the fucking platform. And I knew that in the midst of all that chaos, I had to make it count. So I took out 2 fucking police helicopters. And oh my god, that was sick. That was legendary. The true climax that this video ultimately needed. The entire round was so massive that I had to actually go on a second sheet of paper, then tally it all up. And I even had to use a little bit of multiplications. Now, I can't guarantee that I got an accurate number of kills here. A lot of cars were exploding off screen and I couldn't really identify who was who. But we're talking 100 civilians and 120 police officers. Not perfect, but I'm satisfied.
Let's do this nice and easy, Missy.
Or at least I was gendered correctly when the police officer murdered me.
Fucking pronouns!
Look, y'all. I'm not like a pro at this game. I didn't really play this game too much growing up. And that's just because I didn't really grow up with a PlayStation 2. I mean, it did come out on the Xbox, but by then I was already just kind of moving away from the Xbox as is. And I think part of the problem really is just as I got older, I kind of steered away from video games. But with that being said, I invite anyone who is watching this video to try what I have been doing and do it more successfully. Try to get to the level 6 wanted bounty. Try to not kill any civilians. Try to only kill law enforcement of any kind, whether it be FBI or in a helicopter or just some lone pig on the street. Very literally in a video game.
You punk-ass popo bitches! Close in on it.
So anyway, folks, I hope you have a good rest of your day. Check out my other content. I make a lot of different kinds of content. I also make some music, so you should definitely go check that out. And yeah, peace out.
Mr. Truth here is going to be supplying you with some of the finest